This is going to be a lovely one. I really do believe this. Just recently, I was talking to Sheila and we were having this conversation. I'll give a better introduction than just Sheila, but we were having this conversation and it was really stepping into something bigger. Have you ever felt like there's just something out there, maybe if since you were younger and you felt like there's something bigger, but I'm supposed to be doing something. What is it? And you may be discovering that now, but do you remember when you were younger and you were probably saying, I just feel out of place? There's something that just feels bigger. I'm just eating a sandwich right now, or I'm just going for a walk. You could be 4 or 5, 8 years old, and you're going, I'm missing something. What is this? So Sheila and I were talking about this and we did a session and she started on this whole thing about iconic. And it felt so big, but it didn't feel like it was too big for the room. It was like for me, obviously, that's what I was saying. Obviously. No, obviously, Sheila, the things that you have been doing and the things that you are talking about that and what you've stepped in for this year that I understand you really are at an iconic status if you step into it. And at first it was kind of difficult for her to say, well, yeah, no big deal. She started talking about her clients. And this is where I want to go with this is at Fresh Talks Global Vision, we're always seeking how can we partner with people and also serve ourselves so we get to keep growing and help out there. Help, when you're just going to the regular store, help when you're, doing some big things if you're working with clients. So I want you to have that vision. Because the next thing that Sheila said was, well, I've been making and creating this icon space for my clients, and I do really good work. And she didn't bat an eye. And I go, see, that's it. And she goes, oh. So she took that and ran with it. So let's just say this is maybe last week or a couple of weeks ago. Time's going by fast right now. From that time to now and are stepping into it, I think it's going to be one of the most powerful conversations that you can have within yourself. So I want you to stay here as we interview Sheila. I'm just getting her information right here because I want to talk about, because she brought me some definitions of what iconic. She wanted to go different angles, but I want to talk about, she quoted something about John Lennon. And if you think about this, we're always saying everybody can do something better than us, like Michael Jordan, Oprah Winfrey, and John Lennon. Like those are people that you just can't go to that iconic status. But why not? It really is. If you step into all as one, I'm going to authentically be myself. Nobody else can be like you. That is powerful because then people will want that. They can't find that. And then you get to work exactly the way that you work, and you get to create exactly the way that you're creating, not like anybody else. You stop replicating everybody because you know whatever you're getting is an iconic space. So, Sheila Winter Wallace, you gave me a few definitions, but I do want to just for a moment talk about the iconic status of John Lennon. Put yourself in these shoes and think about this. John Lennon gained iconic status following his death. Iconic image. The gunfight is the single most iconic image of the Wild Wild West. The film Casablanca won 3 Academy Awards, and its characters, dialogue, and music have become iconic. Think about John Lennon, thinking about the gunfight scene, when we're talking about the Wild Wild West. Think about those things that really stand up for you. Swallow that for yourself. Like swallow it and just get into that vibe, like to the cell level. And let's go with this. Let's go with this. Can you step into your iconic space? I want you to be adding any kind of thing of like comments, questions, because I'll be here for you. And I'm hoping we get some live people. If you're in recording, add some stuff. I'm here for you after recording, and Sheila will too. Welcome in, Sheila Winter Wallace. Welcome in.
Thank you so very much, Rhonda. Pleasure to be here.
I'm going to ask you a question. I've been kind of building this up. Are you ready to talk about this? Like this is like
Sure.
Really Awesome. See that? Sure. Yeah, I'm ready to go. Because that's
Well,
what an icon does. Like, I don't know where it's going to go, but I know it's going to happen. Don't you think so,
well,
Sheila? Stepping in.
I had no idea that you were going to frame it that way, and it's perfect. So let's go.
Let's go. Okay, so what's this that you're really acknowledging with this being new, a new layer into your skin that's already been there, but now you're acknowledging it? What are you learning about that for yourself? What's the icon mean for you? Because it sounds like there's actually a deep meaning for you personally. And what have you been doing out there with your clients as holding that space of them being iconic? And I want to hold the space for Fresh Talks Global Vision and all of our guests that are coming in, and get your journal and pen and just kind of get your insight on what we're talking about here. So again, yeah, Sheila, please share about the icon space for you, what you're
Well,
seeing.
in the conversation that you and I had probably about a week or a week and a half ago, that word slipped out. And I thought, wow, icon. Like, where did that come from? And, I told you at the time that I would go into, I have a really beat up Oxford dictionary. The binding's half off, but, that's my treasured dictionary. So yes, we have Google. We can do all that stuff, but I happen to like my old beat up dictionary. And the only word it had everything about iconic and iconoclasm and iconoclastic. The only definition that it had for iconic was conventional. And that got me thinking that really, if we allow ourselves to consider otherwise, there's nothing conventional about any one of us. I mean, we have a nervous system and a body that is pretty much predictable in how it's going to work. But in terms of who I am actually becoming, and that's a process that's happening all the time, I am constantly becoming more. So I think iconic, the definition I would give it as, I like what my friend and mentor has always said: unique, whole, unique, and essential to your world. I think that would be the definition that I would go with it, because there is only one Rhonda Liebig. There's only one Sheila Winter Wallace. There is only one Louise Lebrun. There is only one Stella Murray. See, these are the people in my world. There's only one Jennifer Hatt. So each one of them is unique. The thing that's probably common to every one of us is that we have been raised up in social and cultural conditioning that the meme is we're broken and we need fixing. And iconic would suggest that you're not broken and that you don't need fixing. That in fact, your dreams and aspirations are right on. And as I said to a group last night, and they reminded me that I'd said it, because sometimes stuff comes out of my mouth and then it's like I hear myself, but then it's gone. It takes courage to live iconically. And when you talk about John Lennon, when you talk about Oprah Winfrey, you talk about the movie Casablanca, all of those had, there was some courage involved in all of those self-creations. And which means, from my standpoint, that particularly when I think of Oprah Winfrey, I can only imagine how much fear she would have lived through to become the best version of herself and to do all the good work that she's been doing with people around the world. she's been really a leader of women. So I think that iconic is individual, it's unique, and dare I say, fearless. Now, that doesn't mean that we're all without fear. But as I said to the group last night, I am the only one who can transcend my fear. Nobody else can do that for me. So I was thinking about that this morning on my way to this conversation, and I was thinking, I cannot erase your fear, but I can teach you how to unlearn it.
Oh, that's a big one. Because as human beings, we get to play in this longevity of fear.
Mm-hmm.
Like so many things that we've dealt with in our life, and it just keeps building and building. But to have somebody hold the space like what you're talking about, and the conversation here, I'm really excited about, and the fact that you're talking about that you are ready to erase that. Like, let's get into what that looks like. And we were talking about this when we were together a couple weeks ago. And the more that we get out of the fight or flight, like whatever patterns, I want to talk to you about some of the work that you do so we can kind of give
Mm-hmm.
like an idea of what you're talking about here. Because we can't just stay in the head. There has, because there's a lot of repairing and stuff that we're going to be doing probably until maybe we pass on. I don't know. I'd like to hear what you think about that. But I know that when we can bring things cohesive, when we start doing the work that you're going to be talking about, the stuff and the way that you work with your clients, and really warm up that heart. Yesterday, I had a really hard day. There was something that happened the night before, and I wake up and I'm in this old pattern, but I don't know that I am. I'm just thinking shameful thoughts, and it just beat me up, and it's taken me a while to get going, and I'm trying to write, but and it was like I was writing, but it was not pulling me out, and so I was down pretty deep. But I knew that with the tools that we talk about here, that you just keep working through that, and it doesn't take as long when you're working with somebody. And especially if you're still pretty new at using kind of some of the tools. But I was trying to find all these different tools, and I started recognizing that I was chipping away and things were getting better and better. But it's hard to recognize when you're in that pattern. So
Mm-hmm.
Sheila, can we talk about that? I do
Sure.
believe that you can erase the fear based on the strategies and the guidance you're giving when you're working with somebody. And I want to share with everybody, you have been doing this work for quite a long time. You are
A long time.
a young 79-year-old. I don't know, but 79, when I look at you, it's like you just feel so young and vibrant. Can we
Thank
go
you.
in there about that umbrella, about erasing fear? Like, what's your vision about that, to be truthful and deep with that?
Well, let me say this. Um, you know, I started out as a nurse back in 1969, and 3 years of training before that, and then by 1975, I was in business for myself as a nurse, and then I just went into other businesses up until now. But that whole time, I was not well. I didn't know that I wasn't well,
Mhm.
but not consciously. I just was looking for some way to get out of the pain that I was in, and that pain was showing up. It was showing up physically. I would not admit to depression. I would. Else would I would say? I thought people who talked about depression were. Uh, uh, I don't know what I thought, but it wasn't real, and yet I think I was actually living it, and I just kept covering things up. So I got to this point where I just I started looking for ways to get better, and I found lots of ways to get better, and I I think I met Louise and an environmental physician at one and the same time, and I started working with both of them, and that was well back into the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s. I met Louise in 91, and I met the environmental physician who's now retired in 1989. And I got better incrementally, but there was a period where I didn't see Louise for about 5 years, and in that time, I had become a trainer of neurolinguistics, a teacher of hypnosis, a highly advanced craniosacral therapist, a full Huna initiate, a Reiki master teacher, a Chuaka practitioner, a zero balancing practitioner. You name it, I'd pretty much done it, and I was still crazy. So there was absolute genius in. I didn't see Louise for 5 years. I was in the States building another business and sick, and she was up here. So I reconnected with her after 5 years. I was back in Canada, and I called her up one night, and we just carried on. And finally, she said to me one day, Sheila, and this was really one of my dark nights of the soul where I just felt completely broken. I felt broken physically. I felt broken, everything that I'd created. Everything that I'd created seemed to have just not quite made the mark, not in my expectation. And a lot of it was performance driven.
Mm.
So she said, why don't you step into my program room? And I, at the time, said, what's that going to be equivalent to? And she said, oh, probably first level NLP. And I went, well, I'm a trainer and nothing's working. So I'm going to step in there. I just trusted my gut.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think 2 days in there, I saw in her templates, which she had literally channeled one afternoon with a group of people, I saw the sacred geometry that was in there. And it spoke to my body in a way, and my intellect in a way that nothing else had. And so I'm speaking about well systems, working environments as living systems. So what I learned there was how to breathe. So I don't care what modality you've got. She has one intervention. It's called quantum TLC, quantum triggering life choices, quantum tender loving care. And when you literally something happens, you go into a high level. Let's use fear. It's like, am I going to have enough money to pay the bill? That kind of thing. When you're looking at your bank account and you got more month than money in the account, and all the stuff that fires off in your body. When you literally stop, you really have to just consciously stop, take a big breath in, and take a big breath out. You've got to soften your jaw and you've got to soften your belly. Now, just notice how instantly better you feel, and you only did it once. Now, if you were to actually stay with that, the fear, whatever you're calling fear, or whatever you're calling rage, or whatever you're calling whatever, it literally, it's digested and metabolized. If you start thinking about your breath now as an enzyme that digests energy and information, the way enzymes in the stomach or the bowel would digest carrots or meat, when you think about it that way, you don't have to know anything. All you're doing is taking the body into a parasympathetic response, and life gets better. And you come out of it, and you may not know how the bill's going to get paid, practically. But you have now calmed yourself down enough that your executive functioning comes on board, and you can actually say to yourself, what else is there? You can get, and in the process of looking at what else is there and letting yourself breathe again and again and again on purpose, got to be really intentional about it. Your life starts to change. Now, did you figure something out? No, it just comes to you when you literally soften the body so that that energy from the field, because the thing is, your space, the signal that you are is not your body. Your body is suspended in that space that you are, and that makes all the difference. So here's the thing. It took me almost 4 years to unlearn my old ways, and I can still, it's like the hand reach out and going, hey, you're not behaving properly. Kind of like what your parents did when you were growing up. Hey, but it took me that long to figure out that if I just stopped, if I just paused, because my intellect was running, you haven't got time for this. You just don't have time for this. Get on with it. You can do it. You can do it later. No, we always have time for that, because when we take time for that, everything slows down. And funny how things actually start to get more fluid and paradoxically speed up. So that's the thing. So I can't tell you how many, even some of my best teachers, when they forget about the breathing, I have told them, anything will work as long as you're breathing. But yeah. Can you imagine doing any of the modalities that you do over a body that has no animation? And the breath is where, the body literally, the signal of you rides on that breath. So no breath, no life.
Oh, I love that. And as we were going along, Sheila, and I was breathing and, consciously, like what you were saying, then I can understand that just saying that becomes simple. So you're not fighting with the brain saying, no, don't think through the brain. Just breathe. It was just, let's breathe. Let's notice how the body is changing. And then the expression of like your body's there ready to receive. And we talk about that. Like, I know that there's something there as you're breathing. What's happening? Is it really the body that's receiving this information? Are there downloads? Like, what happens once you get out of your way with the head trying to take charge and trying to answer all these questions and look at the bills and all that, to breathing, allowing your body to open up? What's really happening? What are we acknowledging here? Or could you give us some more insight in that area?
So I don't have a model up in front, but we actually work with something called the predictable structure of thought. And if there are 7 levels, so think about the 7 chakras. The chakras, for people who know about that, and I think more and more people have some awareness of that.
Yeah.
That the chakras are about energy in the body and how that's translated. Logical levels of thought are really how we think. There is a structure to how we actually think. So if somebody has a diagnosis of diabetes and somebody else has a diagnosis of diabetes, if you were to ask both of them how they experience it, it would be completely unique. It would be iconic to both of them. It would be different. because they experience it in different ways. Now, the interesting thing about language, because language really will shape your reality, the iconic is a normalization. Um, it's it's a word. Usually, a lot of the normalizations that we deal with, like relationship. So, what we're really talking about in all of this is our relations, our unique relationship to ourselves.
Mm.
So, relationship is, you take it from the verb to relate, and then we turn it into a noun so that we all think that we're talking exactly the same about the same thing. But the truth of it is, if I ask you what relationship means to you, it's going to be completely unique and iconic to you. And the same thing for me and for anybody else. So the same thing is true about the diagnosis. So I'm not suggesting this is an either or situation where uh, you have an understanding about a diagnosis called diabetes, and you decide
Mm-hmm.
that you're going to go off your meds. I am not saying that. What I am saying is that you might actually discover what that literally, if you know how diabetes works, how that diagnosis comes about, and how those insulin reactions work in the body. And even if you don't, you might all of a sudden start to have an understanding about how you literally, and I'm saying you literally have created it, not about good, bad, right, or wrong. You've literally created in tissue because there's intelligence behind it. And then, depending on your perspective, so now if I talk about perspective, I'm talking about the sixth chakra right here. Who am I in the process of becoming? I might have a different perspective about what that means. I might shift my thinking, but the ultimate thought, and this is leading me to the seventh. I I think the difference, well, it's not I think, I know for myself the difference
Mm-hmm.
that has always made the difference and what's made for my clients is because where I start is I'm not my body.
Mm.
I'm way more than that. So I'm literally the field that is messaging through my body with all the sensory cues that I feel, all the stuff that feels really good, and all the stuff that I go away. I just don't want you here. I don't want to deal with it, all that stuff. Only in an allopathic model where we've been taught that that's wrong and that's not normal,
Yeah.
I am actually working with my clients about that's intelligent, that is really smart, what's behind it. And the
Mm-hmm.
bigger question is, how is that working for you? So now, if it's not working for me, I may go and continue working with the doctor, but still making my choices according to the space and the God force that I am. So, what's what we call it? God force. You're a God force. I'm a God force. Small g God, big F force. And how do we get to that? Because most of us were raised, whether we were raised in a religious setting or not, or a spiritual setting or not, most of us have been raised to believe that there is a God and you're not it. So we're looking to change the lens on that. You are now the force. You're the God force. You're the icon in your own world. And when you operate from that lens, all all the choices that you make will have to change because that's a massive paradigm shift from we're broken. I mean, how many religions have actually spouted, you're going to go to hell if you don't do X.
Yeah.
Or not even necessarily, just a lot of ideologies have been like that.
Yeah.
So you, the entrenchment to that way of thinking is so potent and is so deep into the culture. Doesn't matter where you are. It's so, there are rules and there are regs, and it's
Yeah.
so deep into the culture, and it's perpetrated by fear. It's fear that literally keeps it in place. So
Yeah.
the minute, and fear's a big killer. That's all I got to say about it. So my job is to teach people how to unlearn that and to pay attention to their bodies. So when you shift that perspective from I'm broken and this is not normal to I'm whole, unique, and essential to my world, even when things are falling apart, your life literally changes because it can't not.
Oh, I love that. You know, what's interesting is when you said you're in that point of talking about medicine and saying, I'm not telling you to get off medicine, but I'm telling you that your body is, if you start looking at it and you are speaking to your body and the things that you're saying, let's talk about your body not being broken. So about 10 years ago, I did get off of medicine, and it was just like, I don't feel like taking my pill, but I mean, it was a big strategy. And as a health coach, I knew I would never tell my clients to do this, but I knew there was something not showing up. And I kept telling myself I was sick. And there came a day when I was talking to myself. You know, it wasn't very nice because I was trying to learn about this cohesiveness of loving on my body, sharing with my body that it wasn't sick. And I felt it. I felt all of a sudden there was this new space of
Mm-hmm.
everything I say, it's changing my body. So the things that I'm saying about, and when I was looking at the list of things I was saying, I could connect with what you're saying right now. And I do understand when you are talking about clearing that fear because of the steps that you talked about and noticing that you are what you are saying and your body's reacting to what you're saying. To give the iconic space here, that's a very profound statement to be making there.
Mm-hmm. Right.
We're gonna clear fear, but when you start understanding the ideology, then you recognize that things can be going and coming at you left and right. But as long as you understand everything is all is one, your body's not ill, you're going to be learning and exploring in these new areas because of these challenges. So can we go in there as
Mm-hmm.
we are transitioning in the latter part of this conversation about, let's say that we're in that space now, we're like, okay, so we do get what you're sharing here, which is beautiful. What happens in somebody's life that you've been seeing in the space of shifting? All of a sudden things start coming together and somebody stands out more as themselves. They stand in that iconic space, and their body does too. Their body's just all of a sudden energy, not feeling sick because of this conversation and the stuff that you know throughout the years in we are speaking about here. What do you start noticing in people when they get in this alignment and start playing with it, start learning more that they actually believe it because their ideology was different to now
Mm-hmm.
they're saying something new?
Wow, you've said a lot there. Um, what
What's
I
the
noticed,
see?
it would really good observations that you've made there. What I would say to you is that what I notice with my clients and maybe the people who've been through the programs that I've run, the people who've been on, we call it the slab, for 5 days straight of energy work, and that's a transformative experience. They start to drop. They It doesn't mean that they aren't going to, like, if I think, if I want to use the normalization of fear, I may feel fear several times a day. Am I paying attention to it and owning, oh, I'm I'm scared, and then just literally declaring it for myself, stopping, taking a big breath, and exhaling until my body feels settled, and then just get on? Or am I not paying attention and just avoiding it? I haven't got time for that, or ignoring it just so that it'll go away. So just let me get my train of thought, because I kind of went in about two different directions there. Um, what I've noticed is that they stop judging themselves. So when they go into that place of owning, oh gosh, I'm feeling that way again, they stop the judgment and they just own the truth of that in the moment. And they take a great big breath and they allow themselves to have their tears wherever they want to have them. And they don't have any judgment on their tears. Or if they do have judgment, because some of us still do, it's not appropriate to be crying here, they still take that moment, even if it means excusing themselves from the room for a minute, to just literally take a breath and let themselves have that moment, because the digestion happens in the presence of the trigger is a prompt, if you would think about it that way. It's like, hey, here comes my life. I can actually take the prompt right now and do something about this. And it's as simple as taking a breath and exhaling and doing it again and again, and constantly asking yourself, what your conscious mind really loves is to hear this. Is my jaw relaxed? Am I breathing? Is my belly soft? And then invite it to sit over someplace else, and tell it, you got a few things to learn here, because my body is the one that does all the digesting, the metabolizing, the integration. People get, at age 41, age 42, and that was probably before, may have been a bit before I met Louise. May have been a bit before I started with the environmental position. I just had a lot of physical things going on, and I was telling myself that I was confident and I was assured, and I was, I looked professional and all this stuff, and I was just a blinking mess, and I really had a lot of pain, and a lot of it was located in the lower back. A lot of it was what we would have called middle schmerz. It's like the middle of a woman's cycle, where massive pain in all second chakra stuff, rotating down the legs. Sometimes it was just ripping pain. And then, I had things like 4:00 in the afternoon, I would have brain fog. And I had a store, and I was pretty much a whiz at math, but it didn't matter back then, 40 years ago, we weren't dealing with sales the way we're dealing today. We didn't have that technology. We had cash registers and things that would check your credit card, but I would be counting pennies. And I would spend 2 hours trying to find 2 pennies just so things.
Oh my God! As a tax CPA, it hurts me to hear that.
It was just crazy making stuff. And so I stayed with the environmental physician, who was really looking at the whole body as I'm going to call it a root chakra, because if you're the God force, the essence of who you are is a field, and it is it is literally saturating the body if you let it, so that I could have been free of pain. But then I met Louise, and then she was working on the East Coast, so sometimes I would only see her once or twice a year. And one day she phoned me up and she said, "You know that problem you had, all that second chakra stuff I was telling you about?" She said, "How is that thing?" I said, "What are you talking about?" And, and I hadn't seen her in 15 months. And I said, "What are you talking about? What pain? What thing?" And then all of a sudden, the light bulb goes on up here. I could feel the flood through my whole body. And I went,
Wow.
"Oh my God, it's gone." And I hadn't even noticed.
Yeah.
So that was a big, big shift. So years later, when she invited me into her program room, I was ready to go, because like I've never forgotten. There are a couple of episodes I had with her that I have never forgotten, because it's that fast.
Yeah.
And we don't think from an allopathic model, a Newtonian model, we think it's going to take forever. We have seen uh, people walk into a program room with a diagnosis of Crohn's, and they've already had the surgery. And then, because it's a pattern running,
Yeah.
the same kind of a symptomology starts playing out again.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen a person walk into a room like that, and 2 days later walk out free of Crohn's. And somebody, the doctors, this woman, that would happen, 25 years ago, I think, with in one of Louise's program rooms at the time.
Yeah.
And the doctors, for the next, the woman, they said, they couldn't believe that she didn't have Crohn's, so they told her she had non-compliant Crohn's. In other words, that says
non-compliant.
Yeah.
It just disappeared. It's not being compliant. It's not showing up today. And that's something that's a bad thing. Like, you're right. No, it's there, but it's not being compliant. So it's still there. But
yeah, well, that was when the belief system is this cannot be cured.
Yeah.
That's what happens. So how many people, I think about the Canadian community, and I can't think of his name, but he was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer probably 20 or 25 years ago. He was given 6 months to live.
That whole expiration thing. Oh, I love this. You're sharing this, Sheila.
So he quit the job, and all he ever wanted to do was be on stage telling jokes. So he figured, I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to get on stage for the next 6 months. 20 years later, plus, he's still around. So,
I feel this so much, Sheila. I feel this so much. And what you're talking about is like, there's more people getting on board with this. So I'm so happy you are. How can our community find you so that we can keep this conversation going? Because this is going to be in recording. We're going to make sure people, find this interview. But I want to know, how can we get people really connected with what you're talking about here? This is really big stuff. I love it. And I am feeling everything you're saying. I understand. This is what I believe too. So where can we find you?
You can find me at SheilaWinterWallace.com. You can also find me at bodygateways.com. That is a URL that I own, and Sheila Winter is pointed to it. I'm always happy to talk to people. The email is Sheila@SheilaWinterWallace.com or Sheila@bodygateways.com. And the other place that people can go is to wellsystems.com. Because WEL-systems.com. That's not my website. That's the Well Systems Institute website. In there, you will find a shop that has phenomenal audio and phenomenal writing.
Oh, I love it.
Uh, yeah,
Thank you
so
so
that
much. Thank you so
so
much.
so anybody can go in there and order, because better you start with a book or an audio. And I mean, uh, there's a lot of really good audio in there. And since I mentioned fear, there's one that deals with fear. They're not expensive. Um, they will actually. The seminal work is Fully Alive, and it's a book that, when it started out, late 90s, Fully Alive from 9 to 5, and then it Louise took it apart several years later and added about 40% more.
Mm-hmm.
um, that that book literally opens the body up, so it's
Wow.
worthwhile. So I encourage people, if you find it hard to read, put it down, go back and pick it up and read some more, because it's literally in the process of transforming the body. We don't talk about the body as a quantum biological processor. But if you think about it, if you put carrots and broccoli and protein powder and nut milk in a blender to make a smoothie, it's going to digest. It's going to, literally uh, transform the shape of the ingredients that you put in there. It's going to
Yeah.
take from one form into another. Well, when you're breathing with quantum TLC, it's doing exactly the same thing to the energy and information in the body. The stuff that you call fear, anger, sadness, fear, and guilt, all that stuff, it's doing exactly the same thing
Wow.
when you soften the body. But the body changes because it's not a hard processor. It's a processor that literally, when you change the energy and information, that is creating a construct
Mm-hmm.
by which you are living, not good, bad, right, or wrong, it literally starts to shift the body.
Yeah.
So if I pulled out pictures of myself from age 5 to now,
Yeah.
like you're going to have a sense, well, that's Sheila. But body has transformed a lot over. And so that's how fast the healing can come.
Yeah.
If you just change your mind about the quality of your life and how you want to live, which means you're actually, when you do that, there are going to be people, you might find yourself alone
Yeah.
sometimes, because people don't relate anymore. It's not.
You know what, Sheila? I find I'm noticing what time it is too, because I want to transition
Yeah.
here. But you were way ahead of your time, because at 79, and you're talking about something that you knew long ago. Right now, there's a lot of conversation to what you're talking about. Not that the main population is
Right.
on board with this. I mean, what you're talking about can be mind blowing for people. So I want people to come and find you. Go check out the books, that the wealth-systems.com. If you want to get connected with Sheila Winter Wallace, then bodygateways.com or hername.com. But you are all through social media too. People really need to be connecting with you, because you are speaking truth and you could see these changes. And now I understand, from the beginning when we started, we're talking about the release of fear, because once you get into this work, your body is a free flowing vessel of, I am not ill, I'm not my body, everything, and that whole concept of that, you could be having conversation with yourself that's extremely positive, and understanding the shifts that can happen. and all of a sudden you're really releasing a lot of like what you were talking about, the chakra system and different parts and what's going on. And I love the story about your lower back dealing with the cycles in that second chakra, and you forget it. And I think people forget the pains that they have. They just keep moving forward in the pains that they're seeing instead of, you're right, that big pain that you were dealing with and it was chronic. You're like, oh yeah, what are you talking about? So we really do need to partner with people like you, and of course the show and learning more about what's going on. But I want people to come and check you out because we really, at this point, if you've been in part of this conversation or re-listen to it again, you are going to yearn for more of this conversation, a way to show up in a way that you just feel safe and happy. Things can be going on and you're just like, you know what? I'm going to keep taking care of my body and allow things to flow because it'll be loose and open and it'll be able to flex with the times. Thank you so much for coming and spending time with us and sharing this. Anything else that you'd like to say as we're transitioning out?
I'm 79. I'll be 80 in 6 months. You don't have to get sick, get old, and you die. The body's going to go at some point, but you can have a quality of life when you recognize that everything comes in layers. And maybe the final thing I would say is I've heard so many people say, oh, I thought I dealt with that and now it's back. No, it's not back. You're dealing, you're digesting, metabolizing things in layers. And you just when you actually unlearn something and you re-educate the body to, here's a different way, change your perspective of who am I becoming? Well, I can't put a name on it, but I know that my evolution of self is key. That's what healing really is. So when you actually allow that, your life's going to change.
I love it. Thank you so much, my friend. I appreciate you coming from Canada. I'm here in California and we get to connect globally. Fresh Talks Global Vision. Here we have another conversation. I call it hashtag speaker locking arms. We got to be with Sheila Winters Wallace. And is that right? Your middle name is Winters.
Well, it's Winter.
Winter.
And here's the story. That's my maiden name. Wallace is my married name. But where I live, the law has changed and all the women have to be with their maiden names. I got grandfathered in years ago. So when I go in to vote, I have to be Winter, but my married name is allowed to be Wallace. I just happen to like the whole sound of it. So that's what it is.
I love it. So SherryWinterWallace.com. Come and check it out. Sheila. Always said Sherry. Sheila.
Thanks so much.
Well, the thing is that you are saying exactly what I've been feeling, and I have a community also, and this is what we are bringing to the forefront is exactly what you're saying. You are very, very special. I cannot believe how much ahead of your time that you were when you started practicing this stuff to where you are now and how you're feeling in your body and how light you're feeling and good at 79 years old. So there's definitely your testimonial for yourself also. Thank you, my friend.
I have just, if you don't mind, you said something really important there. It's not, I think everybody knows this stuff inside. What I knew it, but I had no words for it. I had no language for it. Well Systems gave me the language for it so that I could actually start to actually share it with other people in a way that made sense and it was easy.
Yeah.
That's the difference. So you know this stuff. You just maybe didn't have the language for it, but you have language now.
Yeah. Thank you. You have language now. Let's end with that. That's so beautiful. You have the language now. Listen to this again. Allow yourself to really breathe in what we're talking about here. This could be your iconic shift in your life. Namaste. Love you and love everyone. I really appreciate and respect you. Let's keep helping people open up their voice and be able to share. I love you. Stop the blaming and shaming out there. Today we were talking about your vessel. The more that you come into alignment and be aware of what Sheila was saying, we all know that we can actually heal the body, but now it was the language that you got introduced to today. Namaste. Love you, everyone. Bye-bye. And
Bye,
see you
everyone.
again soon. Bye.
Bye.